NFR.
NFR Extra is a podcast dedicated to the Wrangler National Finals Rodeo and features icons and personalities that embody the Western lifestyle.
You know, it seems like every year when I'm there stage right, watching someone come on that's been a musical hero, at that moment, they're always my favorite. Like that's what I try to create every year. That's that level of satisfaction I try to get, is sitting there going, wow, I can't believe Robert O'Keefe is right in front of it. Hey, what is that hat over there? And I said, oh, it's just a sample I made. I don't even know what I'm going to call it yet. I said, I was thinking about Ruffy. And he said, well, what's Ruffy mean? And I told him, very passionate explanation about Hooey is more for timies and Ruffy and all this. And he goes, all right, we'll start it in 50 stores. We'll see how it does.
Oh, my gosh.
So we're doubling now.
Music can be looked at as either the most important thing that we have in our soul's connection to God, or some people see it as ambient noise and completely irrelevant. And some people see it as somewhere in between.
This is Brylan Bentley, and you're listening to NFR Extra.
Good morning, Joey.
Good morning. How are y'all doing?
Doing good. How about yourself?
No complaints at all. Just finished up a really cool event here in San Antonio with Wade Bowen for the Bowen Family Foundation, and played golf a couple of days, and they were able to raise a good bit of money for their charity. So it's been a bit exhausting and very hot a few days of golf. But,
yeah, I was gonna say, what's the mercury reading down there right now?
When we played on Sunday, and we had a noon tee time, I think it was the hottest day of the year down here. It was 105. And, we all needed an ice bath after that one. And then yesterday we had an earlier tee time, and I think it only got up to 100. So, it's what we call relief now. I know you guys are experiencing out west as well, but Wade put on a great event, and I don't know, I think they raised over $500,000. So it was a big success.
What is the benefit for that he puts on there with his family?
So it's the Bowen Foundation, and basically most of it is centered around where he grew up, which is McLennan County around Waco. And it's really anything to help families and kids. And I think they donate to over 40 charities in the area.
Wow.
And, they showed a few of them, and they were everything from early literacy to homeless shelters that they're helping in the area. Wow. So Wade always did a concert, and then I think they've just started doing the golf tournament the last few years, and just first class all the way.
Yeah.
So, Joey, we want to know a little bit more about the man behind the brand. You guys have been very successful, but where did you get some of these ideas, and tell us a little bit about your start?
The impetus behind why there even is a brand is I grew up a rodeo kid, and like so many kids that travel around with their parents now, that was me. It was a different reality back then. I don't think I knew anyone with a living quarters trailer. I remember we thought we were fancy. One time we took our stock trailer and put a mattress and a box fan in the front of it. But it was still the same thing, riding around, in my case, to West Texas, to AJRA rodeos, and created, in retrospect, just a few years of my life, created some lifelong memories, some lifelong relationships, and was just very passionate about the sport and about the lifestyle, and was fortunate that my dad, hauled me all those places. We didn't have much, but we had an old trailer and a couple old great horses, and they worked for what we were doing. So I grew up in that, and I got to a point where I really couldn't compete when I was 14, 15 years old. Just really couldn't afford another horse to take it to another level. And life happened, and focused more on high school sports. And graduated from high school, tried to go the college route, but I couldn't afford college, and so I was always working full time during college. Went to a lot of community colleges, Stephen F. Austin, University of Texas, Dallas. Anywhere I could go get a job is where I tried to go to school. And I was very fortunate to get a job in the construction business for a great company that really let me kind of make my own way. And even though I didn't have a college education, allowed me to work up through the ranks, and just never thought I would leave that company, frankly. And one of the things that I did with them is opened up some offices on the West Coast. Well, I'd never been to California, and I went out there and really became enamored with surfers. And I just thought they were a lot like cowboys. And I tried to surf myself while I was out there. And it gave me a glimpse of that culture. It also gave me a glimpse of that style, of what an action sports brand was, just because I just dug it myself. And so when I started a family in my late 20s, I started actually roping again. My nephew had wanted me to teach him how to rope, and I was reluctant. I said, man, I haven't roped since, I was 15, 16 years old, but he convinced me to help him start roping. And of course, enjoyed it right off the bat. And it was time to take him to his first junior rodeo. Well, I took him to his first junior rodeo, and lo and behold, the kids were wearing that same action sports surf skate gear that I just discovered in California. And so I asked my nephew, what gives? Why aren't you wearing Western brands? Because I knew he was proud of rodeo. I knew he loved it.
Sure.
But he indicated that there wasn't any brands that really represented his style in Western. So that's when the light bulb went off. And it still took a long time. I still had to develop a name. And the name ended up being pretty easy because I was a calf roper growing up. So Hooey, getting your Hooey is something that, I've heard since I started roping. And, every rodeo, if you listen, you probably hear the announcer say it at least once. So it seemed like a good brand idea. And I decided to go with headwear. And I was really lucky to be able to even find, because nowadays you can go buy blanks that are decent blanks. But back then, probably the most expensive hat in a Western store, most expensive cap was maybe $10, and it was not high quality at all. And so just finding the manufacturing piece was a big get. I was very fortunate to do that. We still do business with the same manufacturers. But the most I thought it would be was just me selling it out of the truck when I went to calf ropings and rodeos. So that's what I did. And that was about 2007. And I would just sell them out of the truck. And, it was as much as I could keep up with, doing it as just a part-time gas money type gig. And then fast forward 2 years, and Cavender's called. And we had been in a few retailers, but I didn't know what I was doing. I did everything on an Excel spreadsheet and still had a bank bag for the money and the check. So Cavender's called, and I realized, wow, I may have to make a big life decision here. And so I end up, they were doing a test order for 25 stores, which I think I was in 5 stores at the time. So their test order was the biggest thing I'd done by far. And I'll tell you a funny story about fake it till you make it. I didn't have a real accounting system. I was doing it all off Excel, but I had just bought a pair of shoes from Nike. And so I looked at their packing slip, and I figured, well, Nike knows what they're doing. So I made my packing slip look like Nike's. And, I put like invoice number 1022 or whatever, which, it was really, and just to make it look legit. And so those were the packing slips I sent out with that Cavender's. They probably didn't know it at the time, but I was just copying what I'd seen on a Nike invoice. So September of 2009, I left the construction company. and started full time, and just had one employee for a good while. Didn't move out of my house until maybe late 2010, and yeah, so that's how we got started. We now have we're a decent sized operation here in South Texas. We have 15 acres off of Highway 281. And we've got, a barn in the back, a rodeo arena in the back, and we've got as many warehouses as we can build as fast as we can build them. And, we employ about 50 to 60 people here in Spring Branch. And then we've got different satellite offices. So, it's, now that I tell the story, it's been a pretty dynamic decade plus, and good bit of growth, and we've got a really great team surrounding us here that makes it all happen.
Yeah, that's interesting too. I mean, that's quite the success story in a fairly short period of time, looking at the big scheme of things. But going back there, the dynamic between the team roping and the surfers, I think that's a very interesting parallel, because you can go to I don't surf because there's sharks, obviously, but, like that style. I'm from Northern California myself, and so you have a lot of that same style to where, like, you've got the lake, the mountain, and the surfing style, and you've got X amount of brands that you can say that cross all of those lines. But the cool thing about that, and I think something that you probably saw, is that there was young kids doing it, there's adults doing it, and then there's older people that did it, maybe more aggressively when they're younger. But like you said, going back into the team roping yourself, is that something that you can do well into, the later years of your life? And so, like, the surfing and the team roping is a very interesting kind of cross on that, I think, for what you brought up on that side.
Yeah, I've never really considered that parallel about it being a lifelong passion. I knew that. I remember I was talking to a bartender way back when all this was all formulating in my head, and he didn't like that I was comparing cowboys and surfers. And I said, look, if you didn't have to work, took away your need to pay rent, what would you do every day? He said, I'd surf. That's it. I said, that's how cowboys are.
Yeah.
And I said, it's a singular passion that we would do, every single day, every minute of the day, if we could. And then he goes, all right, you're convincing me, but y'all wear those tight pants. I said, what do you wear when it's cold? He goes, damn, a wetsuit. You're right. Well, those tight jeans are functional too.
Yeah. There's two words that would have shut that down, and that's Malloy family for the surfing and the cowboy side. Yeah, that's interesting though. And that's the thing too. It's like, you go back to the Chris Ledoux song about the bikers and the cowboy hat thing for, this cowboy's hat. It's like, you can find, there's songs written about it. Cody Jinks and the Cowboys and the Hippies. Is there some crazy parallel like that to where people just, I never thought of it like that. But, man, to hit that stride and to see what those kids were missing in that, and to start with ball caps. And then from that aspect of how much do you have in your portfolio now as far as clothing gear?
So we're head to toe now. One of the things that I had to determine pretty early on, because there was no doubt that we had created a fad. And the question that I had to ask myself is, are you going to build a fad or a brand? And, much respect to people that build fads, because they'll probably end up laughing all the way to the bank. They probably make more money than any of us because they get in and out of those fads. There's some pretty brilliant people that have done that. But, I was determined to build a brand. And so that meant that we had to, go into other categories. And so most of the categories that we're in, we manufacture ourselves. There are a few that are licensing partnerships. For example, in footwear, we design the footwear, but Twisted X manufactures it. So there are some licensing components to our catalog, but, from footwear to cowboy hats and everything in between, Hooey pretty much has it now.
I believe there's even a dog color now, correct?
Oh, I forgot pets. Thank you. Yes.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
I say that because we were up in Idaho and we went to, I think it was North 40 up there, and we're walking around, just walking through the store because we don't have those stores here in Vegas. And I was like, does that say Hooey? It does. I was like, I'll be danged.
Yeah, that's something that never thought to venture in. And then, so many people would send us messages on DM saying that their pets were named Hooey, especially dogs. And so, yeah, it was a natural fit. And so we're always looking at things. Obviously, we're not going to be the first people to ever make dog collars, but we'll always look at things like that and say, what can we do a little differently? So our snaps on our leashes are a little bit easier to manipulate when you got gloves on or it's cold, more like things you would be doing, in a arena type barn environment. So they're just little things that we try to do to make things more rugged for our world. There are some pieces of apparel that we're very proud that we created. We started a trend, and then there's some things like that with collars and leashes. You just try to make it a little bit better and put your own spin and design on it.
Right.
Do you see yourself venturing into other animal aspects for equine, or is that something you've already done?
I've had some discussions, very, very preliminary, about protective gear. That's something I'd really like to do. I think that not only from an aesthetic standpoint, where we could, because we do a lot of patterns and cool designs in our products, kind of what we're known for. So I think that we could, do something aesthetically that would be cool. But, I also look forward to helping on the designs, because that's something that, we have an arena out back. So I would really like to take some prototypes and see if there maybe is a wrinkle that someone hasn't thought of in some protective gear that, we could maybe make our own. And I was just able to develop a rope with cactus, and Barry and I had been talking about doing it for a long time, and I just knew exactly what I wanted. I wanted a kind of, I wanted a 4-strand, but an old school feel. I didn't want a color on it. Everybody's done every color on the sun. I want to go back to no color dye.
Right.
And personally, it's my favorite rope, and I have a lot of people that say they really like it. So doing things like that, again, it's not recreating the team rope, but it's going in and making it our own and maybe modifying and improving it just a little bit. And those are really fun projects to work with licensed partners.
Let's take a quick pause, and we'll be right back. Looking to rope in some news and features you can't find anywhere else? Then look no further than the series of blogs at nfrexperience.com. You'll find customized content from experts in all things rodeo and Las Vegas. There's the NFR Insider, NFR Traveling Partners, and One-on-One with Susan Canode. Hurley's Hotspots and Heart of the NFR with Brian Hurlbert. NFR Experience with Patrick Everson, and the Junior World Finals with Jack Nowlin. There's something for all rodeo fans. Check it out at nfrexperience.com, because legacies and memories are made in Vegas.
So you talked about some of that protective gear. How did that concept and the Ruffy brand that you guys also have, how did that come together? Was that your idea or someone from your team?
Yeah, so I got to tell you the truth. So Ruffy was obviously a way for us to be able to go to a different segment of the market that included bull riders and bronc riders, right? So,
makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, and I just, drew up a logo that looked like the guy hanging onto a bull rope. And I would love to say that it was this great marketing that got it out into, that kind of blew that brand up. But I went to Lids in Indianapolis, which Lids is one of our biggest customers to this day. Lids is, they're not Western, but they're a huge international headwear retailer. And I had taken a box of Hooey hats. We were just starting with Lids as well. And his name was Neil Davis. And he said, hey, what is that hat over there? And I said, oh, it's just a sample I made. I don't even know what I'm going to call it yet. I said, I was thinking about Ruffy. And he said, well, what's Ruffy mean? And I told him, very passionate explanation about Hooey is more for timies and Ruffy and all this. And he goes, all right, we'll start it in 50 stores. We'll see how it does.
Oh my gosh.
So we're doubling now.
There's a pucker factor. Oh.
Yeah. And so that's how Ruffy got started, from one black and red, very simple sample hat that I just accidentally took in that cardboard box into that meeting.
That's a happy accident.
Yeah. It's you wish they could all work out that way. So.
Isn't that the truth?
Tell us about going from there. Sorry, we're staring each other in the eyes, just scratching our heads on this deal about the expansion and growth of how we can figure out to accidentally make something cool.
We're not that cool.
No. Man, I'm always interested too because, like the Hooey Party in Vegas and how that began and what that is developing into as well.
Yeah, it's been a real passion project, that's for sure. So believe it or not, I think I've gone to the NFR every year since I was born. I was born in 73 and in February, and my dad took me in December of 73 to Oklahoma City. I grew up in North Texas, and so it wasn't that far of a drive for us to go to Oklahoma City. So we went every year. And then the first year it was in Vegas, was 85, so I would have been 12. And I don't think we ever missed a year in Vegas. And so as I became old enough to party and have a good time, which, wasn't necessarily legal age, but definitely out there having fun in Vegas. And I've always been passionate about music, and I've always really enjoyed, what began as the outlaw country movement with Willie and Waylon and Jerry Jeff. And then I was fortunate to be on the ground floor of watching the Texas music movement, which turned into Red Dirt. And Jack Ingram really started that way back when. So I was just very passionate about that type of music. Well, when I would go to Vegas, no offense to y'all weren't programming it, but the music just was not very good. It seemed like casinos and bars out there said, well, just throw a cowboy hat on a guy, bring him in from Nashville, and all these cowboys will like it. Well, I was at least one cowboy that didn't. That was the only thing I didn't like about the NFR experience, is the music wasn't very good, in my opinion. And so I'd always told myself, if I ever have, and I think originally I thought maybe the construction company I worked for would throw a party, because we had a Vegas office as well. But then as I was thinking about Hooey, I thought, one day I want to bring good music to Vegas during the NFR. And then to compound that thought, I was riding around with a guy who still owns a brand within Western, and he was pointing up to billboards, and he was saying, how much that billboard cost me? How much that billboard cost me, as he's driving through Vegas. And I was shocked. I was just getting started, and I thought, man, I bet I could build with good music and experience and spend less money than he spent for that billboard. So I became obsessed about having some type of musical experience for people in Vegas. And the first year, and I thought it needed to be like the coolest club in Vegas. And I tried that, and I probably did wipe out my life savings. Thankfully, I was able to build it back up. The first party was a big failure. I learned not to think I could negotiate with the Vegas clubs. And my headline act may have had a little too much fun, and before he got there. And so I really thought it was one and done. I remember flying out of Las Vegas on a Southwest flight, pretty depressed that it had, been so lackluster. And one of the places, when I was looking for a venue, one of the places that was mentioned was Brooklyn Bowl. And of course, me being ignorant at the time, I'm like, I don't want to have it at a bowling alley. And so I had it at this club that ended up being going off so poorly. And so I would definitely consider the bowling alley again. So I made a call, and it just so happened that Brooklyn Bowl, the year that I put on the first party, had a real tough time. They had booked Big and Rich. And I think they thought, hey, just book Big and Rich. He's a cowboy and the NFR crowd will come. And they didn't. And so they were looking for a solution. And so I said, hey, if you'll let me use your venue, I'll program this. I think we can do something special. And it was a very modest party the first year, by all accounts, but they liked it enough that they said, hey, next year will you come back and do both Fridays of the NFR? So we'll do 2 shows. And so this year will be the 10th anniversary of the Hooey Parties. That's but awesome. It will be actually the 9th year at Brooklyn Bowl. And it's just, well, I guess 8th technically, because we had the COVID year in Fort Worth. But Brooklyn Bowl has been the most incredible partner. That venue is exactly what I wanted to accomplish, which is I wanted it to have a Vegas vibe. And that Vegas vibe, as y'all know, is very unique. Vegas clubs, there's no clubs like them in the world. But I also wanted it to be accessible. I wanted people to go, oh, this is cool. I'm just paying $30, $40, $50 to see Turnpike Troubadours or Dwight Yoakam.
Right.
And if you want a GA, you can do that. But you can also go the VIP route. You can walk the turquoise carpet. You can, everybody really dresses up. There's a big fashion element to it now. We do a live feed on turquoise carpet, so people are interviewed. So it's a great mix of being accessible, but I think also having a real high-end Vegas elevated feel. And that was kind of the goal from the beginning.
So who's been your favorite artist so far that you've had at your party?
It seems like every year when I'm there stage right, watching someone come on that's been a musical hero, at that moment, they're always my favorite. Like that's what I try to create every year. That's that level of satisfaction I try to get, is sitting there going, wow, I can't believe Robert O'Keefe is right in front of us. I can't believe Dwight Yoakam. Yeah, Dwight Yoakam's right in front of us. Turnpike Troubadours. This year, we have an opening, and a lot of times it's opening acts that I'm most excited about, because I really try to catch people on their way up. Mm-hmm. and I'm built relationships with a lot of these people. And Parker McCollum, the first time he ever played Vegas, he opened the show for at the Hooey Party. Shane Smith and the Saints opened the show. He's mentioned to me multiple times that people will say the first time I ever saw you, talking about Shane, was at the Hooey Party. So take a lot of satisfaction, not only out of having the big names, that's amazing, but also introducing people to music on the way up that we think is just really, really unique, distinctive, authentic artists. That's probably what I enjoy the most, is introducing them to that audience that probably hadn't heard of them before.
Yeah. That's kind of the cool thing too, is if it's music that you like, other people will probably like it as well. And they don't have, now you've got other opportunities to hear new artists on YouTube and stuff like that. You look at the sensations that have come up that don't take the typical route of I've got to go to Nashville or wherever and start and get on the radio and do all that. But having that deal to where the Hooey Party, it's one of those things where, like, man, you've got, and especially with the amount of cowboys that you have with the Hooey and with the Ruffy brand, I mean, you got the top guys there, and it's like, oh man, you're creating an environment that's already set on a pretty incredible stage. Mm-hmm. And it's like you give people an experience that they walk away with. And that's, I think that's something that's pretty neat that you've done there. And with the music thing, it is very interesting, because the one thing about kind of the cowboy culture is you can't, like the legit cowboys, you can't tell them a lie and expect them to believe it. And so, like you said, you bring in somebody from Nashville, you throw a hat on their head, and this guy's talking about like my truck or what. It's like, I don't think so, partner. But that deal to where it puts a level of authenticity on there that cannot be duplicated, and you can't convince somebody that they are a legit deal, because Cowboys will see through that. And the cowboy culture is one of those things where it's like, no, you lost me. So when you have that and you put a certificate of your brand on top of that, I think that it really does kind of set the trajectory for the direction that they're going to go. Like, no, that guy's real. I saw him at the Hooey Party. So that's very, very interesting.
Yeah, it's, for me, music, I think that music can be looked at as either the most important thing that we have in our soul's connection to God, or some people see it as ambient noise and completely irrelevant. So, and some people see it as somewhere in between. Yeah. I happen to find music, to be a really critical part of my life. And even though I'm not a musician per se, I can just beat on a guitar a little bit. And but our 15-year-old boy it started playing. Wade Bowen actually brought him up on stage a couple of weeks ago and had him play with him. So I'm able to live vicariously through him actually being talented at music. But, I get so much satisfaction out of the music and the art and the lyrics that I feel like it's giving back to them, to give them a stage like that. Like Shane Smith, I felt like that was giving back to him what he had already given me, so that's a huge piece. The band this year that fits that mold is they're called Red Clay Strays. And I cannot, I really cannot more enthusiastically recommend their music. They just, and they're not country necessarily. They're from Alabama. So I say that they're not cowboy country. They are certainly country, but they're really just soulful. And so it'll be fun this year, because I think everybody's going to be packed in for the headliner. And I think they're going to be, sort of standing in their spots to make sure they don't lose their spots. And then they're all going to look at each other and say, wow, what did we just witness? The lead singer, Red Clay Strays, I don't know. He's about 6'5", looks a lot like Elvis, just has a charisma and a stage presence that's and the rest of the band is extremely talented. One of the best drummers I've ever seen. So anyway, don't give me, I will go on and on. You may want to edit this because I will talk on and on about music, but bottom line is the big excitement for me this year in introducing new music will be Red Clay Strays.
Are you allowed to tell us who the headliner is?
So Turnpike's coming back.
Oh, okay. Shut your mouth. Right. Brand new album, Cat in the Rain. Yeah. Check it out on Spotify. See them at the Hooey Party. What?
Yeah, I know. And they've been so good to us. And, last year they had made a comment, because it was definitely the smallest venue they had played last year. And I'm sure it was definitely didn't compare in, the earnings for those other places. But they had said that they really enjoyed it and appreciated the show. And we certainly try to treat people right. And so I asked them right there, I asked their management, hey, would you consider coming back next year? And they agreed pretty quickly. And so, yeah, we're just really, really fortunate to have them back. I'm not making it official. I know this is getting the word out there, but I'm not making it official because I'm going to try to figure out a way to circumvent, ticket scalpers and brokers buying them. I'm going to try to make them available somehow where, they don't get gobbled up that quick. I mean, it's a good problem to have, to sell out as quickly as they will, but I'd like to give our audience that's been with us a long time an opportunity to get them first. And so, when they go on sale, we'll see how we can skin that cat, but we're going to try.
That's kind of the same thing you talk about, not the biggest venue, but that's the NFR at the Thomas and Mack. It's not the biggest venue. You've got limited amount of tickets, but the experience, the environment, everything else that goes with it. But, when you got such a hot artist like Turnpike and, kind of like what their little ebb and flow of, are they coming back? What are they doing? And then to come back better and badder than they ever have been before. But really quick, tell us a little bit about the BFO at Resorts World this year.
Sure. So we moved to Resorts World. This will be our third year, and it's the Bullfighters Only World Championship. It's what we work and tour all year for, is to qualify for the World Championship at Resorts World, and then ultimately crown a world champion after our last performance. We had a really good partnership with Tropicana pre-COVID, and we had a tent set up at Las Vegas Boulevard and Trop Ave, which you can't really get better real estate than that. I think they're building a baseball stadium there now soon, and we loved our relationship with Trop, but Resorts World came, and we were reluctant because we'd never heard of Resorts World. It was kind of a strange sounding name, and thought, how in the world are they going to be able to migrate all that NFR traffic to a place called Resorts World that people had never heard of? Well, then I met the people over there, and it's Scott Sabella and his team, Luke Trusty, and these folks that in their previous lives with a different property knew the NFR inside and out. So because they're such great people, because they know the NFR crowd so well, they've been able to be so successful there, and gave us the peace of mind that we can move the BFO. And so BFO is freestyle bullfighting. It's a combination of the Western bullfighters that you'll sometimes see protecting bull riders, but we use the Mexican fighting bulls, incredibly majestic, mean animals. And of course we don't hurt the animals. It's not like the bullfights done elsewhere in the world. Now the bullfighters are not always so lucky. It's a dangerous sport for sure. And the show, if you've seen it, it's kind of a combination of I've heard people say like X Games style. I've heard people compare it to a fight, like a UFC fight, the way we do production. And then, of course, there's, everyone in rodeo likes bullfighting as well. So Las Vegas Events actually gave us our first opportunity in 2015 to put on a freestyle bullfight. So we owe so much to Las Vegas Events and Bo Gardner in even allowing us to go out there and create this league. And now the league is, really taking on a life of its own. And the World Championships this year should be bigger and better than ever there at Resorts World.
Well, Joey, this has been an outstanding conversation, and congratulations to you and your team and the success you've had. And we look forward to seeing what you guys are going to do this year when you're back in Vegas.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having me on. I've enjoyed it.
Want to experience more of the NFR? Then visit NFRexperience.com, and we invite you to subscribe to NFR Extra on Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and wherever you're listening right now. If you like what you've heard on NFR Extra, we would love it if you gave us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe.